What are the mysteries of three? How's everybody doing today? Good to be here and welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas and I do videos on all kinds of different subjects, from math to geometry, physics and chemistry, history, nutrition and fitness, and there's probably quite a few others that I'm not remembering right now, but what I do is I teach versions of those courses that are really far off the beaten path, what I would call like quantum versions of those subjects, and so in a lot of cases you have to kind of unlearn a lot of the things that you learned, and in order to relearn the more foundational points of view. Anyway, right now what we've been focusing on in this course or on this channel is the Tree of Life. And I teach Tree of Life because it's a great tool in and of itself, but it also helps you to learn all these other subjects because it helps you to integrate all the other subjects. You can see where they stand in relation to one another, and you can make a lot of connections if you can understand the Tree of Life before. And so I'm going to be presenting 144 videos on the separate minor aspects of the Tree of Life. And then once we do that, then we will go to the the scholastic subjects, and hopefully then we'll have a good foundation in order to really understand those subjects and to be able to put them together, to see where they stand in relation to one another, to prioritize them, and to be able to remember them. So Tree of Life is the first subject here, and you may have heard of or know of the Tree of Life. This is the diagram, and this is also called Hebrew Kabbalah. This is different though because it's a different interpretation. This goes back to the ancient Egyptians. I learned my version from Ra Neferemen in his books Meduna, and I'm just trying to kind of expand on his teachings and to integrate a few of my own, my own personal pet subjects into the Tree of Life. Now you can see that the tree has 10 different circles or spheres, number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There is an abyss here, a dotted circle or sphere, and then there is a 0 above the tree. That's 12 different components of the Tree of Life. You learn those 12 different components, and then you kind of memorize the diagram so you understand how they're connected to each other, and you are good to go. You've got a good start. Now, that's the beginner's version that we'll be getting into in just a second here. But then the advanced version that I'm teaching kind of at the end of each one, the 144 minor aspects, is to take the whole tree and to shrink it down and to apply it to each sphere. So you can think of the tree as like a map of our consciousness. And so when you boil it down and shrink it, you're basically putting a mini map of consciousness onto each one of these categories of consciousness. So you're breaking each one down into 12 separate ones. That makes a total of 144. And I've compiled a list of those 144 different, what I call stages of life or stages of history. But those stages are not chronological, they're dramatic stages. And if you click the link in the description, I'd be happy to send that out to you for free. It'll help you kind of integrate all of this work too, and to be able to, it's just kind of like a scorecard so that you can see which ones are which and so on, all at once. Whereas in these videos, I'm just presenting one at a time. Okay, now to get to the back to the beginners aspect, the 12 categories. The first one is the 10th sphere, and this is related to our survival, our instinct, our wild animal consciousness, the law of the jungle, kill or be killed, and our life force, the thing that keeps us alive regardless of our conscious input. So our heart keeps beating and we keep digesting food and so on. Okay, then the ninth sphere has to do with our domestic consciousness. This is what we get. This is kind of the domestic animal. This is what we get growing up in the home, the first years of our lives, where we are super highly receptive. We, what they call mediumistic trance. We are soaking up everything from our environment. We're amazed by things because they're all so new and fresh. And we pay attention to our caregivers, whoever is raising us up and cleaning us up and feeding us, keeping us warm. Those people, we pay attention especially to them. We watch what they do and we imitate what they do to the extent we can, and then we practice that imitation until we get it. So this is how we learn to walk, this is how we learn to eat, this is how we learn to do all these things that we do, that we learn in this early 5 to 7 year period of life, where we pick up all this stuff. It's very difficult to learn this stuff. If we had to learn it now, we probably wouldn't be able to do it. But at this point in time, we are so highly receptive that this is really the learning phase. Okay. Now, when we go to the eighth sphere, unfortunately, the ninth sphere is blind, so it doesn't discern between good and bad, good and evil. So it will copy anything that your caregivers are doing. Now, when we go to the eighth sphere, where the ninth sphere is the domestic sphere, domestic consciousness, the eighth sphere is out in public, the public sphere. And so this is where our establishment is, the institutions. This is where all the resources are located. This is where we get the consensus worldview, the expert opinion, the everybody knows that kind of point of view. They tell us what we're supposed to believe in, and they tell us how we're supposed to behave. And to the extent that we can do that, we can gain access into the eighth sphere, which is where the resources are. So, if we follow the directions, we get into the best schools, we get the best grades on the test, we get the best jobs, and so on. The problem is that the eighth sphere is a trickster, and the eighth sphere is also basically blind, and so the eighth sphere may or may not be telling us the truth about things. They're telling us what's convenient for them. So a lot of times our own experience contradicts with what they're telling us. Again, this is just like the emperor wears no clothes legend, where you can see clearly that the emperor doesn't have any clothes on, but it appears to you as if everybody can see their clothes, see the emperor's clothes, even though everybody is actually just pretending to see it because the emperor is not wearing any clothes. And so if you kind of yield to that consensus, you end up kind of inverting your eighth sphere, which is your belief systems and your logical reasoning. These are the faculties of the eighth sphere: reasoning and belief systems. But so if you have to invert those because you don't have really enough confidence in your own point of view, and you're convinced that this is where everybody else believes. This is one of the first fallacies of logic and reasoning, is just because everybody believes it does not make it true. And so that causes us to invert the eighth sphere, to use things like circular reasoning, to use things like where we're rationalization, where we are kind of rejecting our own experience in favor of these people that we're making excuses for. So when we invert the eighth sphere, we get access to the eighth sphere, but we kind of see that as being the end of the line. This is the key to success. I've arrived now that I've arrived at the A sphere. Whereas if we can keep our A sphere intact, upright, and we recognize that, okay, these people are kind of lying to me, let me just give it lip service so that I can get what I need out of the resources, get the minimal amount of resources that I need, and then I can move on with my evolution up the tree. Because the A sphere is really only the third one of the 12 faculties that we have. And so to think that it's the be-all, end-all is a huge mistake. And it's a very limiting thing. But if we can move on to the 7th sphere and just keep the A sphere in perspective, it doesn't mean that this is all bad, but it just means we need to keep it into perspective. We can't blow up the A sphere so that it's like the only thing. That's kind of how it is. It's like you got the 10th and the 9th sphere, and then the A sphere is like the rest. And that's not how it is. So just use the A sphere for what it is. Logic and reason, these are useful things, belief systems that are useful, but when they are taken out of proportion, they cause us to really limit ourselves and to stunt our evolution. Now, when we go over to the 7th sphere, we recognize that there's a problem here, and while this is the real world, so-called, the 7th sphere is the imaginary world. So when we go over to the 7th sphere, we're basically imagining a better alternative to the A sphere. We smelled a rat with the A sphere. Something smelled funny. We got out of there, and we imagined how the A sphere could be better. So imagination is one of the main faculties here at the 7th sphere, along with inspiration, being able to follow our people that, like our heroes, people that have done things that we want to do or similar. Also our intuition, our ability to more or less to ask, to be curious, and to ask, to go inside for guidance. And we get guidance, and the guidance that we get is correct and perfect. But whether we're able to translate that communication or not is another matter. So we have to verify our intuition. We also have our creative spark, our spiritual spark, or our conscience, which is what we tune into with the intuition when it's about right or wrong, or good or evil. And then we also have our pleasure principle, being able to put things together into pleasing arrangements. So all those things go into the 7th sphere, and they go into formulating our creative mission and our creative products. Our creative products are like things that propose alternatives to the A sphere, but they also send us up on the tree, where the A sphere is like a cookie cutter. It's saying, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, go to business school, go to medical school, or whatever. At the 7th sphere, you're really saying, who am I and what am I here for? What is the best version of me for me to contribute the most to this universe? How can I contribute? What are my skills and affinities, and what are my weaknesses, and how do I fit in here at this point in time? And that's your, when you can arrive at that, you can arrive at your sacred mission, and it propels you up the tree. And so then when we get to the 6th sphere, which is really our essence and our center, and we are located here, this is our free will faculty, which comes down to our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. So what we find is that generally we pay attention to this lower part of the tree. This is our comfort zone. This is what we're used to dealing with, and so we naturally kind of give our attention away here. But we also have the other part of free will, our ability to make decisions, and so we can choose to avert our attention from this area and to turn ourselves around and focus on the top of the tree. Pay attention to the top of the tree, starting with the 5th sphere, which is our sense of justice. Our sense of justice, or otherwise known as karma, the enforcement of the law. And our karma it enforces itself or calibrates itself based on violence, waste, and violation. So when we act, we act with a certain amount of violence, waste, and violation, and that's what we get in return. As you sow, so shall you reap. What comes around goes around. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the karma comes back to us just like it was a mirror, and it reflects to us. But if we're paying attention, again, a quality of the sixth sphere, then we can learn from our karma, and we can learn how to minimize the amount of waste and violence and violation in our behavior. So this is another way to evolve ourselves. Same or similar with the fourth sphere, where the fifth sphere is the enforcement of the natural law or order of things. The fourth sphere is the articulation of that law and order. And this comes in the form of cosmologies and holy books and theories of everything. And, every civilization has one. A lot of scientists and a lot of individuals have made them themselves. I believe, the tree of life is one in and of itself. And these things purport to tell us about how everything works, how they all work together, and in like a grand symphony called the Tao. And, how who is God? Where do we come from? What's our relationship with God? What are we supposed to be doing here? What's the purpose of it all? And all of these different questions are answered by all of these cosmologies. Doesn't mean that they're answered correctly, but the approach here is to really be comparing and contrasting, to look at all the different holy books, or as many as you can, or anyway, and the individual cosmologies, and then also use your intuition. Go inside, ask yourself, how do I make sense of all these different cosmologies? How can I integrate all of those things into my personal understanding? And again, if you really are intent and attending to study all these cosmologies, you will be able to kind of take another leap with intuition, or what you would call insight, into a more insightful understanding of the fourth sphere, where all the universals are: universal love, universal law, universal language. Okay, then we've got the abyss here, and this is really our psychic powers. This has to do with like a magnetic charge, which is an omen, a synchronicity, an anomaly, something that sticks out in our mind as being, wow, this is a very strange thing. This is something I haven't really experienced before, or this is out of the ordinary. This seems to defy the laws of probability. And if we can notice that is the first part of psychic of psychic powers, is just being able to notice that is actually happening. So that's called psychic receptivity. The second part is called psychic heat. That's being able to actually act upon the omen. Normally when we receive an omen, the course of action is also implicit in that communication. But just like our switching around of free will to our attention, it requires courage, because just like here, where you're normally paying attention to this area and then you switch around and pay attention up here, you are kind of looking into the unknown, and so it's kind of scary. In the same way here at the psychic powers, once you understand the course of action, actually doing that action makes you stand out. It exposes you to vulnerability. Makes you put yourself out there. And so it's scary. So you have to, again, summon your courage to, summon this psychic heat. So that's the abyss, is psychic receptivity and then psychic heat in response to omens. Okay, then we have 3, 2, and 1 at the top of the tree. These are our divine faculties within. And This is omnipotence, all powerful, omniscience, all knowing, and omnipresent, all present, all at once, eternally. And so we tune into this through sound and sound synchronization, such as mantra, shamanic drumming, also like ecstatic dancing, and sacred music. And also then we have, and this is also really the kind of our ability to fulfill our creative mission that we launched or hatched here at the seventh sphere. This is our really being able to actually fulfill that, all the after all of that, it's a whole life mission. Okay, then the second sphere is omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom. This is really our ability to solve problems, and this comes as a result of being able to not think. Whereas at the eighth sphere, we solve problems through thinking. At the second sphere, we solve them through not thinking, and being able to kind of, again, insight or to experience revelation, basically to be able to see the creator. So if you can stay off content, you can stay off thought. All the thought drift, or the what you would call the connecting one thought to another. If you can not indulge in that, you eventually get to a very calm and clear mind, and that becomes transparent, that you can actually see through. And so you can see through to the center, your deepest center at your core. And that image of the center is the image of wisdom. So this is how you're able to solve problems. You're able to see the solution to the problems. And it's not just your problems, it's other people's problems, because this is where divination comes in. And that's a substitute for wisdom, really, to be able to, refer to a random chance process, such as a tarot deck, in order to ask your problems and to get solutions. So that's kind of a poor man's wisdom. One that is not able to, at this point, do the very difficult meditation discipline of being able to lay off all their thoughts, their thought drift. Okay, then at the first sphere, omnipresence, all present, all at once. This is the unifying factor. This is what we get when we're able to really tune in to our center, and to actually not only to see our center, but to merge with our center and to be our center. At that point, we recognize that the center point of us, our singularity at the center, is the same as the singularity at the center of everybody else. And so we're all related that way. We're all the same that way. And then the zero above the tree is the mystery, and it is the nothingness. It is not part of the universe, but is part of the creator. And so we can't access it directly. And you can also think of it as the rules of the game. We'll be talking about that a little bit here. The rules of the game, these were laid down before the universe started, or at the dawn of the universe. And so these were already there. These are already present. Okay, now that's the beginning aspect of the tree. Now when you take it to the next aspect, you take the whole tree and you put it on each one of the spheres to break it down into the 144 minor aspects. Today we're looking at number 136, and that is corresponding to the zero sphere, and it's corresponding to the third fractal of the zero sphere. So that third fractal of the zero sphere is about nothingness and the rules of the game and the mystery. And the 3 is about omnipotence, all powerful, accomplishing our mission, and being able to tune into the sacred rhythms. Okay, so number 136, what are the mysteries of 3? 3 stabilizes. 3 characteristics and 3 doors. Stage number 136 is about 3, which is created at the same time as 2 through the division of 1 by phi. 3 has multiple stabilizing functions. Exponents and logs are the third dimensional inverses. And e to the x power creates a curve that is identical with its own rate of change or slope or curve. 3 balls are needed to make a 2D triangle, the most stable figure. The rule of 3 is that if it adds up to a number that goes into 3, it goes into 3 too, leading to harmonics. We get the square root of 3 from the diagonal of a cube, from the 60-degree angles of equilateral triangles, and 3 is the volume of a cube, 3 times the volume of a tetrahedron. For a universe of motion, the rules stipulate that that if we want to understand the true nature of things, directly perceive the 3 characteristics of all phenomena: unsatisfactoriness, not self, and impermanence. If we investigate our experience, especially in meditation, we gain great insight once we can perceive these 3 characteristics. Our experiences cannot satisfy. They are not us, but something else, and they come and go, not lasting for long. These understandings greatly unencumber and catalyze our perception, and each of these open a door to enlightenment. To perceive the 3 characteristics thoroughly and directly is to be awakened. These 3 doors to ultimate reality are unrelated to content and found in all content. Okay, that is the 3rd fractal of the 0 sphere. 3 stabilizes, 3 characteristics, 3 doors. And that is something that we'll be talking about more. You know, the 0 sphere obviously is a mystery. So, you know, you can take all that with a grain of salt, but that is, you know, the way that I see the 3 characteristics at this time. If you, or the mysteries of 3 at this time. If you have other ideas, please leave them in the comments section. I appreciate that you stayed to the end of the video. Please smash the like button. You can subscribe to the channel. Again, make constructive comments. You can share the video with others. You can get a free copy of my the guide to the 144 fractal faculties or stages of life. And you can also donate directly to me through Cash App or Venmo, also listed in the description. I'll be delivering another video tomorrow around the same time on another one of the 144 fractal faculties. And I hope you come back and check me out then. In the meantime, have a great day.